Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media, and today we're on our political channel, and we have the Chief of Staff from the Jackson County Legislative. Well, this is Frank White's Chief of Staff, I should say, and I've interviewed Frank yesterday, County Exec, and I asked him would he have his Chief of Staff come on because there's been so much stuff over these stadiums, over the taxes, and a lot of other things that, from Mr. Nelson's point of view, I don't think that are really clear with our public. And so I would like uh, uh, Mr. Clifford to try to give you an inside view about these subjects. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on.
So the ball is in your court, man. Run it down.
Yeah, so I mean, just simply, I think that one of the things that we're hoping to do is to get out there and just address some of the misconceptions that are running prevalent through our community right now about what is happening versus what's actually happening. And it's a lot. And I think that one of the things that we want people to know is that we understand that there are so many things going on and there are concerning things that are happening. And so it's understandable for folks to throw their hands in the air and say, I've had enough. I'm tired of this. I just want something different. I want something new. And what we're here to say is that one, you have every right to feel that way. But number two is that we are concerned with what's coming and what is happening and with the misinformation that's being fed to people, whether it's through traditional media outlets or whether it's being through word of mouth or it's being through politicians spreading misinformation. And so that's why the county executive came on with you yesterday, sir. And he asked me to come on today. And just so folks know, there's no predetermined questions. There's no things that we've said we won't talk about. We're just here to answer those questions. And we know that you'll give us an honest opportunity to do so. And so I really am grateful for that. And, happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. I don't have that many questions because what I say, I said. The things that I see, that those ballparks and them trying to, as far as I'm concerned, lynch Frank White on uh some things that he don't have no control over, them property taxes. He's not out there doing that. And then they just had this little forum that I peeked at a little bit, and he was saying that you were at these meetings and then you had your right hand man at this or woman at these meetings, and that he didn't have a vote, and all of that made sense to me. Why would he be at these
Yeah.
meetings? And so
Yeah.
that those are the things that I want you to clear up. And as you said, there's no preconceived anything, but most people that look at our show, it's about conversations. I give you the opportunity to express how you're looking at things for our community. So keep it moving.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And so just to address the discussion in regards to legislative meetings, the county executive has attended hundreds of legislative meetings in his career at Jackson County, both when he was a member of the legislature and as county executive. But unfortunately, they've devolved into this political sideshow and circus where a few legislators are using them to both spread misinformation, to try to promote themselves, and to attack county associates and discredit them with no basis whatsoever. And so the county executive, understanding and knowing that his participation and involvement in those meetings increases the outside attention on them, made the decision that he was going to professionally and respectfully continue to work with the legislature. But that didn't mean that he was going to attend every one of their meetings, especially because of how things have been going. And so whenever there was a change in the leadership of the county legislature this year, he made the decision that staff would be participating in those meetings, that he would be engaged with legislators and he would be working with staff, and that he would be communicating mainly in writing because so many things were stated that were just factually inaccurate. And he doesn't want to see that happen. And especially he doesn't want to see the public have to weed through all these lies and attacks on hardworking public servants. And so he's asked me and other staff members to continue to participate in those meetings. We've been at every one of them, and he's had an open door policy with county legislators. But the problem is that's just a distraction. That's not what any of this is about. What we're really dealing with is that there are some very strong and powerful interests in Kansas City that have a vested interest in ensuring that a stadium subsidy deal with billions of dollars of taxpayer money goes to two highly successful private businesses, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals, to subsidize their stadiums. And the county executive is not okay with that. He's not okay with a blank check. He's not okay with just stepping back and saying whatever you guys want. And he's also somebody who's not driven by media attention or a free ticket to an owner suite at a game or some free handout, because he's been there and he's done that. And he also knows why he's in this position that he's in. He's in the position that he's in because he is giving back to the community that's given so much to him. He is in this position because he wants to help. Now, that is a novel concept, I think, for a lot of elected officials, but it's also a difficult position to be in, because when he comes out and says these are bad deals and these aren't in the public's best interest, that is counter to what you're hearing from almost every other elected official. And when you do that, you expose them. And so, yes, he's going to have elected officials who are not going to be his biggest proponent. He's going to have elected officials who are frustrated with him for saying out to the public what every one of them is saying behind closed doors. There is not an economic report, there is not an expert in this field that will tell you that what was proposed and put on the ballot in April of 2024 was in the best interest of the public, especially our low-income and minority communities, because of the detrimental impact that those incentives have on them.
This is what I see through my lens. People are frustrated, as you say, and most of them really not tuned in to really what's going on. And I'll take a page out of Mr. Trump's playbook with all this false news. Even when I'm looking at stories on the internet that I would like to reshare, some of them seem too true, and then you Google or look at where they came from, and you see it's false news, but it looks like it's A-OK. And I think America at this point, there's a lot of that going on, clickbait and what have you. And there are some real homeowners that do know what's going on. But as I said, do you know where you live? You live in Jackson County. You ever heard of Pendergrass? Did you know that two, three, I don't know how many of them that was in Frank's position have gone to jail? And now you have someone that is trying to stand up to some of the things. And like I said, unless you're in the room, you don't know. But I always will go on character. I always will go on character. And I think that the county exec, he's not there to play no games. He's there to represent not just the Black community. He's there to represent Kansas City. And a lot of times you can't see things because you're not involved in things. And when you make these rash decisions, I don't understand this. Talk about this recall, because how you got money to spend $1 million and change on a recall on a man to say he's gonna retire? Okay. What is with that?
And I wish that I could. I'm sorry, but I wish that I could explain kind of what's with that. But the reality is that Jackson County has some antiquated provisions of our county charter that allow anyone to try and recall an elected official with rules that are almost unheard of in the United States, where there is no time limitation. So they could start collecting signatures today and collect them for 10 more years on any elected Jackson County official with no time limitation. They don't have to state any actual improprieties, which is almost always required across the country. And they don't have to disclose their financial donors.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Hold it. That's what I wanted to ask you. In Frank's interview, he spoke, follow the money. Do you know what that money trail? Because my understanding, some of this money is not even coming from us.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I wish that I could answer it. But the reality is that they're doing everything they can to make sure that the public doesn't find out both where the money's coming from and why they're doing this. And the reality is that county executive is fighting that in court and that he's going to continue to do so regardless of what happens in the days and weeks to come. But the public should be outraged by this, that there could literally be money coming in from out of state. It could be coming in from DC. It could be coming from out of the country. And they're bringing in people from outside of this state and outside of this country to be part of this and to try to act like they are have the best interest of Jackson County at heart. But the reality is they simply don't. And so they're spreading this misinformation. They're creating these, lies about the county executive, and they're hoping that people aren't paying attention, that they're too busy, and that they're not going to take the time to find out the facts, and they're not going to show up on September 30th, and then they get to do what they want to do. And we know what that is. That's putting another blank check on the ballot to support these very successful private businesses.
When you say blank check, right? That's another thing. When that interview, he was saying that they wanted to pass some stuff and didn't even really have an agreement. And I'm not signing. I'm like, what business or who? If you, any business, your home, I'm going to sell my home to you and you're going to tell me all of this and you want me to sign and I don't have all of the information. That's a no-go.
That's exactly right.
I don't think that should be the clear cut that yes, they gave us a proposal, but we want to ask questions, we want to inquire, and then if it's set right, then we're ready to sign right then. That's
Absolutely.
what was my understanding. Now, if there's a different, please let the public know.
No, you got it absolutely right. And while I can't go into all the details of all the negotiations, I can tell you that from the beginning, the county executive was clear. Our current agreement is not in the best interest of Jackson County. However, he is willing to support some level of support for these teams, but it has to have a return for the Jackson County residents.
ROI?
It's exactly right. That's exactly it. And the most basic and simple of terms for any agreement is that they're in writing, that we actually have an agreement and we put our names to it and we sign it. And if they're not willing to do that, that should set off alarms. And guess what? It did. And so throughout this process, the county executive was pressured, he was intimidated, he was told that if he didn't get behind it, that exactly what would happen is happening right now with the recall. But he continued to come back in the room with us and say, I don't care. I'm going to do what's right. And this is not good. And it wasn't just when these discussions with the team started that he said this. When I first came in, one of the most passionate topics for him is the tax incentive process in Kansas City and the way in which we're giving successful businesses money that they don't need, taking it from our schools to do so, and not getting economic returns for it. And while those may be my words and how that I phrase it, that's exactly the sentiment that he had before I got here. And that's what the sentiment that he took into these negotiations. And he's put out a public proposal now that I think is candidly one of the most innovative and common sense proposals for stadium subsidies. Absolutely. The simplest terms of it is we have a 3/8 cent sales tax right now, and 100% of the proceeds go to those two teams and those stadiums. His proposal is let's split it. 1/3 goes to the team, 1/3 goes to support our safety net hospital and University Health, which is in need of $500 of capital improvements that we don't have the funds to do right now. And 1/3 of it goes to community public safety and improvements to the downtown courthouse, because this facility where you come to seek justice or you come to get your Americans with Disability Act case heard, it's not even ADA accessible and it's not even safe to be in. And so 1/3 of those funds, which are taxpayer dollars, would go to this facility, and taxpayers wouldn't see a penny of increased taxes under his proposal.
This is what I say, and I said this to Frank. I've been here since 1978. Really, let's say I got into the business side or start educating myself to how government and different things. There's not been one company since I've been here that when they give you all these proposals and you give them these millions, they never keep their word to the community. Not one. And I'm not just talking about Jackson County. They with the city and everything. Oh, we're gonna leave Missouri and go over to Kansas unless you give us $30 million. And then what they do 4 years later, they sell the facility or move, just like out there, Benjamin Stables, and then we're left paying all these damn bills. And then when these type issues come up, it's like the public is right here with all of it. But they're not looking at it. It's been a drip process, and these corporations and these special interests, no, they say now we can slip this in, and now we can slip this in, especially here in the third district where I'm at. The third district has always been a black district because of all of this money and things. Now the fifth district is the minority district, and so I have issues with a lot of the things that are going on, but I'm not in those closed doors like you are.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head. And so you can look at any singular project or you can look as a whole, and the results are the same, is that we continue to get promises, but we don't get delivery on those promises. I mean, look at what's happening at Cerner right now in Southeast Kansas City, the biggest TIF in the history of the United States at the time that it was entered. And now it's a ghost town. And now it is continually getting these benefits, and they are reducing staff every single day. And what do we get to pay to, in return for our investment? Bad news headlines, but the elected officials that did it, just as a reminder of why these situation happens. This isn't because of pure corruption. This isn't because of folks who don't understand the system. It's because of the way that the system is set up. This is systemic. And so if you're an elected official and you want positive news coverage, what do you want? You need a groundbreaking. You need an announcement of something that you've accomplished or something you've brought or something that you've done. But whenever the rubber meets the road and the actual deal gets done and we get to see how it's worked out, where are those elected officials? They're long gone. Term limits have limited their ability to stay in office. Our attention span is no longer there. And so we're moved on to whatever TikTok or Instagram is telling us on that day, or some false news story, as you mentioned earlier, because we can't consume all of this and still work and pay our bills and keep our families going. So it's all built, the system is built to create the exact results that we're getting. And until somebody like the county executive is willing to step up and say, guys, this isn't right. I'll take the hits. I'll take the pushback, but we can't give these teams billions of dollars with no agreement and no guarantee of what's coming back to the taxpayers, even though in 10 years, whenever we figure out what this deal really is, I'll be gone. That's still not right. And he wasn't willing to put his name on it.
And let me say this. See, you mentioned term limits. All right, I used to be vice chairman of the Citizens Association, and back then you couldn't get elected unless the Citizens Association endorsed you. And I was tricked, and myself and Henry Lyons are the one that introduced those term limits. And not remember I said, when you don't know and you think you know, by the time you learn how the system works, them term limits get you out of there. And I was
Absolutely.
used the same way they trying to do this situation here. Now,
Yeah.
I really regret that. But you can't change it now.
Yeah, and I'll say there's a pro and con arguments for and against term limits, but it's also just the realities that I think we need to be honest about and discuss whenever we're having those discussions, then or now. And so what we see happening is the expertise moves outside of your governmental bodies whenever that happens. And so when we're talking about tax incentives and how we're not getting the returns and we're not able to hold them accountable, well, think about it. If you have a great knowledge and expertise in tax incentives, you're not going to make more money being a governmental employee, or especially as an elected official. You're going to make more money on the outside. And on the outside, you get paid by those who are getting those tax incentives. And so the way that these are drafted, they're drafted on the outside, and then they're brought to government for signature or rubber stamp, candidly, in a lot of situations. And they're not being drafted in a manner that's the most effective for government and
For
for the
our
community.
community, basically.
Exactly right.
So, is there anything else that you would like to cover before we close it down?
No, I think that I want to acknowledge that if people have frustrations or if people are confused, that's understandable, and we will own our responsibility for being part of that. But also, we want people to know that what is happening right now is not about the community, and it's not about what's in the best interest. It's about people who want to take over power for their own self-interest, and it's about people who want to give away the taxpayer dollars to people who don't need it. And there are people out there who truly, absolutely need it today, and it's not these folks.
All right. I think we've had a vigorous and discussion per se on shedding some light on a few things. I look forward to bringing you back, and hopefully, I would like to have a member of your staff to come on also to talk about what they're doing. And do you, man, this stuff is so consuming. I wanted to ask you, well, what plans do y'all really want to do working on things that y'all want to work on and not being hamstrung trying to put these damn fires out?
That's exactly
You want to
right.
say something about that jail before we get off the air?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the successes of the county executive that gets the least, unfortunately, amount of attention. And the county executive inherited a situation when he came into office where the county jail, get this, which holds a few hundred people who are accused of violent crimes every day, the doors didn't lock. They literally could pull the doors open. And 100% of Jackson County's capital improvement funds, there's a tax in the state of Missouri that the voters have approved, and it's for capital improvements. 100% of those funds go to two buildings, Kaufman and Arrowhead. So he didn't have a penny to spend on these two facilities. He had doors that didn't lock, and he had a political infighting that was happening. And what did he do? He put his nose down. He figured out a way to get it done without going to the taxpayers for 1 cent of a tax increase. And now we have a state-of-the-art jail that's being built with a small increase in capacity as requested by members of the legislature and by law enforcement that is going to open its doors next year. And it's going to be the safest and most ethically designed detention facility in the history of this region of the country, thanks to him.
That's what when I interviewed Sheriff Forte, he said it was going to be 1,000 bed facilities. He was getting kicked back on that. He was like, but they're going to be right. Everything is going to be right. Having
Exactly.
2,000 beds and people are miserable and this is about reforming and different things don't work. And I think earlier you said we got to change some of the things that are wrong in the system. You got to get to the root and build fresh.
Absolutely.
All right. So, with that being said, I look forward to bringing you on. Uh, I would like you to come on at least once a month to tell our community what's going on this month down at the county and having some of the lay people that work in the county, if they're not camera shy, to just come on and talk about what they do in the county.
Absolutely.
And see, I think that really helps when a lot of this minutia comes. Because if you're regularly out there, uh, you're just like my neighbor, those people that work in the county, just like our neighbors, then you will see it's not just coming from the top.
That's a great point. Be happy to do so. We'll be happy to get some people come out and talk to you and answer some questions.
All right. So, with that being said, as we always say when we close, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.